Matthew presents volumes of prophecies and scriptures fulfilled in Jesus. But in chapters 13 and 14, he turns our attention to a prophecy fulfilled in the multitude, a prophecy being fulfilled in us. To introduce it, Matthew brings us to the feet of Jesus to hear a parable. The parable of the sower. Remember it? The seed by the wayside, those who hear the word of the kingdom but do not understand it, and the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in their hearts. The seed on stony places, those who hear the word and immediately receive it with joy, but have no root and last only a short time. The seed among thorns, those who hear the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of riches choke it, making it unfruitful. The seed on good ground, those who hear the word and understand it, who bear fruit and produce a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. The sower, seed, and soils, a parable about 4 responses to the word. And be reminded, the word is a person, Jesus. That's John chapter 1 and Revelation 19:14. So these teachings are about 4 responses to Jesus himself. And notice carefully, Matthew doesn't stop with recording the spoken parable. He goes on to record the teaching. Then he goes one more step. He shows us in chapter 14 the responses lived out at that time. Let's read. Verse 1. At that time Herod the Tetrarch heard the report about Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." For Herod had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because John had said to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." And although he wanted to put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Therefore he promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. So she, having been prompted by her mother, said, "Give me John the Baptist's head here on a platter." And the king was sorry. Nevertheless, because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he commanded it to be given to her. So he sent and had John beheaded in prison. And his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl. And she brought it to her mother. Then his disciples came and took away the body and buried it and went and told Jesus. Do you see it? Herod just lived out the response of seed by the wayside. He heard the report about Jesus, but he did not understand. Did the wicked one come and snatch away what was sown? Well, verse 7 is a good indicator. Herod entered into the wrong oath. Next, we see the response of seed on stony places. Verse 13, when Jesus heard it, John the Baptist's death, he departed from there by boat into a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard it, they followed him on foot from the cities. And when Jesus went out, he saw a great multitude, and he was moved with compassion for them and healed their sick. Jesus saw, was moved with compassion, and healed their sick. Compassion. The actual term is splanchnizomai, and that's not mere emotion. This is a revelation of his divine character. What took place at that moment was nothing less than an incarnate display of God the Father's mercy. Verse 15, When it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is already late. Send the multitudes away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food." But Jesus said to them, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "We have here only 5 loaves and 2 fish." He said, "Bring them here to me." Then he commanded the multitudes to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke and gave the loaves to the disciples, and the disciples gave to the multitudes. So they all ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments that remained. Now those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, plus women and children. Key phrase to our thoughts, verse 20. They all ate and were filled. Some translations say satisfied. That's a word that presents the picture. They thought their needs had been fully met, and their longings ceased. That's the response of seed on stony places. The multitude received everything that day immediately with joy, but they had no root, and their following soon ended. Next we see the response of seed among the thorns. And I need to say up front that what we are about to read is more than an interesting, well-known story. What we are about to read are moments in time of great significance to Matthew personally, and they should be for us. Verse 22, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on a mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is, or since it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And friends, I want to say that is a request filled with great faith. Faith and confidence that Jesus can make the impossible possible. Verse 29, so he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Now, that's the story. Don't lose sight of the fact Matthew was in the boat. And what he lived through in those moments so impacted his life that he devoted 3 chapters, chapters 12, 13, and 14, to the prophetic element running through them. These were moments of great spiritual training and growth for Matthew, and we should learn from them. Seed among the thorns lived out. So, were there any thorns, any worries of life in this story? Oh, yes. Were they choking, crowding out, pressing? Were they competing so hard that they detracted from the fruitfulness of these moments? Oh, yes. Are there any thorns, any worries? we face every day. The parable teaches not only worries, cares of life, and anxieties, but also desires for other things, and even affluence can strangle spiritual vitality. Like thorns growing next to good seed that is sprouting, the thorns compete for light, water, and nutrients. They don't uproot the seed, they merely cohabit the soil until the good plant can no longer breathe and intended fruitfulness is smothered. In the moment here, Jesus asked a penetrating question. Why did you doubt? Why did you have a divided heart? Why did you waver? Why did you have an interruption of wholehearted trust? Why did you lose single-minded confidence? Oh, friends, we like Peter need to guard our hearts, keep our focus fixed. We need to seek more than just survival. We, like Peter, should seek to walk with Jesus on the water, or like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, walk with Jesus through the fire. Wherever he walks, we should desire to walk. And when we sense we are seeking, when we don't understand, like Peter, we should cry out to Jesus. And now the best, the response of seed on good ground. Verse 34, when they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent out into all that surrounding region, brought to him all who were sick, and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. As many as recognized it, as many as touched it, were made perfectly well. They recognized him. They knew, they perceived, they understood. They sent out, brought to him all who were sick. And that is a completely different word from sick in verse 14. That referred to physical maladies. This goes far deeper. It emphasizes all human misery, the sick physically, the wrong morally, and even the bad, the evil, the wicked, the harmful. Those who understand they are greatly in need. And they were begging him that they might touch only the hem of his garment, touch, take hold of, cling to, attach themselves. And as many as touched were made perfectly well. Some translations say simply healed or cured, but the literal translation is made whole, saved thoroughly, rescued, brought safely to the other side. They brought them to Jesus. They knew only Jesus could do this. Jesus is the cure. Well, that's Matthew 14, all the verses. So, what do Herod, the multitude, the disciples in the boat, the men of that place, and what do we all have in common? Well, that's the one prophecy Matthew points to about them and us. The prophetic element that runs through chapters 12, 13, and 14. Matthew records the disciples asking Jesus, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" Jesus answered, "I speak to them in parables because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says," and here it is, "In hearing you will hear and by no means understand, and seeing you will see and by no means perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull, and with the ears they have barely heard, and their eyes they have closed, not lest they should see with their eyes and should hear with their ears, and with their hearts they should understand and I should return, and I will heal them. That's Matthew 13, verses 13 through 15, and the prophecy in Isaiah 6, verses 9 and 10. I speak in parables, not lest, return, and I will heal them. Words that tell us Jesus is trying to awaken repentance and bring true life. Speaking with spiritual gems embedded in earthly language that invite all who listen to dig for meaning, to long for, desire what God has for them, to return to Him and be made whole. That's the same thing God the Father tried to do through the prophets. It's the same thing God tried to do through Moses. Moses. Remember when Israel was camped in the plains of Moab and they were about to cross over into the promised land? God had provided redemption for all of them. He led them. And then in Moab, Moses called all Israel and said to them, "You have seen all the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, the great trials, the signs, great wonders. Yet the Lord has not given you a heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, to this very day." Now, if you heard that, what would it stir up in you? Lord, I want that. Lord, please give that to me. That might be a prayer that comes to your mind. It's a prayer that would understand this is a gift from God. God through Moses didn't stop there though. He gave the way. Stand today before the Lord your God. Friends, that's an act of accountability. That you may enter into His covenant and into His oath. It means to cross over into intimate relationship with God. Cross over into His promises. That He may establish you as a people for Himself. Literally, that He may raise you up to fulfillment. Deuteronomy 29, 1 through 15. The same thing God tried to do through Moses, through the prophets, He offers to us through Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. Have our hearts grown dull? Have we become self-satisfied, insensitive to the things of God? Do we barely hear with our ears? Do we give weight to the Word and the things of God? Have we closed our eyes? Or are we all in? Allow me to close with this. Remember those who were made whole at Gennesaret? How do you think they lived after touching Jesus? Remember the parable Jesus spoke immediately after that of the sower? It was the parable of the wheat and tares. In them, please see, Jesus has given us new life, walking on water with Him life, crop producing life, even when walking in the storms of life, even while sharing earthly space with the wicked. And friends, that takes hearts that understand, eyes that see, and ears that hear.